Hi, my name is Dr. Rob Ward, and I want to welcome you to another video segment of the redox.com video conference series. Today's class topic is ADHD and the redox connections associated with that condition. So what is attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, and what are these connections? So let me just spend a minute talking about this medical condition, some of the research that I reviewed in preparing for this section, and then about some solutions from a redox perspective. So ADHD is a neurodevelopmental disorder, meaning it's mostly a problem that affects children, but it does travel into adulthood as well. Children have trouble paying attention, they have excessive activity, they can't control their behavior, and that is out of proportion to their age and development. So what's the cause of this? It's really not known, and there's a lot of research pouring into searching for causes, but we know that about 5 to 7% of children are affected. That's a huge population. More boys than girls by a factor of 3. And there's a genetic connection. Siblings of children with ADHD have a 3 to 4 times greater chance of developing that condition themselves. This condition is associated with head trauma or infections in the brain like meningitis or something along those lines, and there seems to be a link. But it's really an amazing phenomenon when you figure that about 40% of children who have this diagnosis in childhood will go on and carry that into adulthood. And then about 3% of adults are affected, so a little less. So what are the standard treatments? They revolve around counseling and medications. Most of the counseling is multidimensional and can be very, very effective. But frequently in our northern hemisphere here, medications are used that are stimulant medicines that affect the dopamine and norepinephrine neurotransmitter pathways. And these pathways ultimately affect the part of our brain that's involved with higher level thinking and organization. Well, oftentimes this isn't really working, or we're just concerned about the long-term effect of medications, and we've got children that are having difficulty learning in traditional school environments. They're having difficulties engaging in social activities with other kids, and it has a huge impact on affecting their development. So if we could find out better ways to get to the root of the problems in the brain, maybe we could have a bigger impact on this condition. So there's some really amazing studies that have been published recently. The first one was published in 2016, and it'll be footnoted at the bottom of the video for you, the actual article references. In this study, they were looking at blood tests on about 76 children, boys and girls that had been diagnosed clinically with ADHD, and they wondered if there was oxidative stress in these children with ADHD. There's a theory that there's something going wrong and these cells are not repairing themselves, and that's why they're not working well. So they looked at a variety of blood markers for oxidative stress, and the oxidative stress index was significantly greater in children that had ADHD to a p-score of 0.001, very statistically significant. The second study was from 2015, and in this, it looked at children, and they found in their study that children very much had insufficient responses to oxidative stress, and that led to oxidative damage. And there was a statistically significant change in these children with ADHD compared to those that did not have that diagnosis. Well, what is oxidative stress, first of all, and why is that so important in ADHD? Well, let's talk about that for a minute. So oxidative stress, what it boils down to is our cells, when we burn fuel, we create waste. And so the mitochondria will burn fuel and create ATP energy, cellular energy. In the process, it gives off waste products that have to be released from the cell in order for the cell to stay in balance. The cell has a natural pH that it needs to achieve. And so there needs to be an equal balance of positive and negatively charged particles throughout the cellular membrane. If there's a buildup of these positive charges, which are toxins and wastes. Then the nucleus recognizes this and sends help. And so if we get help, the cell remains in balance and the cell can do its work. In this case, a brain cell is connecting the dots. It's creating neurotransmitters, sending a message down a nerve pathway to help us complete a thought. If this nerve cell is not able to send out that message, then the message goes unsent and you've got behavioral problems. So in this case, the nucleus, in order to neutralize these toxins, it has to produce antioxidants. And so the nucleus will produce antioxidants, and the antioxidants will grab a hold of a toxin and a negatively charged particle and bring them together to create a neutral kind of waste product that can be easily released from the cell. So if we neutralize the toxin, everybody's happy. If we don't, we experience damage in the cell. That cell could even die. And in the brain, if a cell dies, it's a disaster because the repair process and replacement process in the central nervous system is very, very slow to negligent. Well, evidence of oxidative stress, or the oxidative stress theory of aging and disease, is best exemplified by the Marie Antoinette syndrome. You might know the story. Marie Antoinette was going to the guillotine at the end of the French Revolution in 1793. And the night before her execution, every hair in her head turned white. And it did that because of an oxidative process that went unchecked, went unanswered. And there was a production of an oxidant called peroxide that caused every hair follicle to die and every hair shaft to turn white, and every root of her hair was white. So in essence, you can think about that happening at a cell level all over our body. So when people have oxidative stress, it might lead to wrinkling of our skin, graying of our hair, shrinkage of our muscles, aging or rust in our joints, or in this case, the inability of brain cells to repair themselves enough for them to do their work and actually connect the dots of thinking. So what can we do to provide redox support? These are redox molecules. They're charged particles. And there are ways that we can provide support. One of the ways is to consume a supplement of redox molecules that are stabilized and balanced. They are small enough to travel across our blood-brain barrier and provide resources to brain cells. And so positive and negative balanced molecule, redox molecules can travel across the cell membrane and help neutralize this imbalance or toxic cell, just the same way an antioxidant would do it. It's just another way of supporting that. So consuming redox molecules in a liquid supplement is very helpful. The next thing we can do to provide redox support is to eat a diet that is more balanced in producing alkaline outcomes to help maintain the pH of our body. So 80% of our foods should be fruits and vegetables, 20% everything else in the perfect world. And that will provide redox support. The next thing to do is to provide really good hydration to our body. So good quality water that is not stripped of its minerals, but is rich in minerals, is always going to help provide redox support. So the combination of supplementing redox molecules, to eating a diet that provides a more alkaline support, and hydrating ourselves are three things that can go a long way to help provide a reduction in oxidative stress in our bodies, in our brains, and help provide support to kids that are fighting this kind of condition. And that may make counseling and or medical therapy much, much more effective. So I hope that's helpful in kind of putting a perspective on what is ADHD, what some of the research shows, and what is oxidative stress, the Marie Antoinette syndrome, and what we can do to provide support.